Today, we're going to talk about the ratios of your body and how those ratios affect your posture. So, the distance between one shoulder and the other. If you take a measure or take a stick and just measure the distance from one tip of your shoulder to the other. So let's say that this is the distance of one of my shoulders to the other. If I take that distance and I measure from the top of my shoulder to where my elbow bends, you'll see that my size is almost the same. Like my arm is just a little bit shorter from the elbow to the shoulder than I am from shoulder to shoulder. So this ratio is called a 50-50. That half of my arm is the length of my shoulders. It's a little bit less my elbow to shoulder. And that from my elbow to my wrist is almost the same distance as from the elbow to the shoulder. So roughly my entire arm is a little bit less than double my shoulders. And you're like, okay, who gives a crap? Okay, so here's the importance for that. When my arm is way out there, this distance is double this distance. So I have a lot of power to leverage this arm off of this broad back and shoulders that I have. Some people, let's look at a classic, beautiful, long, skinny model. They have narrow shoulders and very long arms. That narrow shoulder with that long, long arm puts a lot of stress on the upper part of your neck, shoulder, because your arm is so long in compared to the distance of one shoulder to the other. It's called the cantilever effect. So the further the arm is out there, the longer the arm is in relation to the shoulder, the heavier that weight becomes. If I were to put 3 pounds in my hand here with my elbow bent, I don't really feel it. But if I take that same 3 pounds and I start to bring it forward, it gets heavier and heavier. So now imagine that I had a long model arm. As I take that 3 pounds and it's way out there, can you see how that 3 pounds, instead of just going from 3 pounds, let's say to 6, it'll go from 3 pounds to 10 in leverage, cantilever, angles. So not to overwhelm you, but there's a ton of math that I do in Pilates as a master trainer, that I look at calculations and ratios as I'm teaching, and I know that there's a broad gamut out there. And so the cues that I give you are always particular. So no matter what your ratios are, you're doing the movement with perfect form. Form is everything when you're doing exercise. Everything. Form is everything if you're sitting all day, right? So I gave you a tip for you to adjust the height of your elbow rest so that they're all the way down. So drop your shoulders and bend your elbows. If you give me an extra 1/4 inch lower than that, that's where your elbow rests need to be. So it's an effort for you to get that rest of that hand on your keypad or on your chair rest. Because if you have a slight lift, it's going to shorten these muscles and create issues down the road for the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, the neck, even for the feet, as we're going to talk about different cross lines of force as we go further down. If you are one of those people that have a more narrow shoulder and a longer arm, you have to always pay attention in all your exercises to always bend the elbows more in an effort to make sure that the shoulders are down as low as they can. So a quick little exercise that everyone can do is when you're sitting at your desk, have your feet planted with your arms resting on your lap, shoulders up, throw them down. Find your highest to throw them down and find your lowest. If you do that 4 or 5 times before you start work, it's super good. And then do it with the palms up, shoulders up. Throw the shoulders down. Just doing that at your desk every hour or so is going to help you keep that muscle the correct length so that you don't have trauma down the road. This is Pilates Master Nikki, and I'll see you real soon for another layer of real Pilates. Until then, drink your water, take your vitamins, and behave.